So the Eagles got some very unexpected news ahead of tonight's matchup. However, the Giants are also out a couple key starters, and fortunately it plays right into what the Birds want to do. Having said that, we all realize that it's now or never for Philly to get things back on track with the offense. So let's talk about how they can do that, if they can do it, what New York has planned, and why an injury loss is actually the best case scenario for the Eagles. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? It's game day. Drop a like for me. Good positive vibes out there. And also, it's a perfect opportunity. This is the perfect one for a get-right chance for the Eagles. I know I said that last week because it really did feel like the Broncos' man coverage would play into the offense's hands perfectly. And to be fair, it did until, well, it didn't.
I'd rather not bring it all up again, if that's okay.
Sure, I don't blame you. There's no reason to start a game day with frustration. So tell you what, drop a like on this video and then let me know who you think will score the first touchdown for the Eagles this week. I know, a little bit of change up from what we do normally, but it has to be an Eagles player that you pick. Anyway, if you get it right and the Birds win, which, man, they better, it feels crazy to even say that, but yes, an Eagles first touchdown score, whoever that is, I'm going to spin for that person at the end of the game stream tonight. So come hang out during the stream as we surely get back on track versus the Giants.
Quick, toss some salt over your right shoulder.
Look, I realize nothing's ever a guarantee, but if Philly can't get back on track here, then we have some serious issues. Like, it's now or never. Heck, we're talking about a New York team that the Eagles have owned over the last 2 decades. And since 2022, the Birds have beaten the Giants in 6 of their last 7 matchups. Something Saquon knows very well, but it also tells you how confident he is Philly can right the ship.
I know it hasn't shown, in a consistent way throughout the first 5 games, but there's been sparks. There's been halves where we look untouchable, but there's been halves where we look really bad. So I know I said it before, but we just got to continue to have more halves of us, playing at a high level. So I don't think just our conversation. I think just the way that, the mindset of this team and on this offense and how we work and what we believe we can be. I know how the team's going to respond. I believe in my heart because I know the type of men that we have in this locker room. We got a great chance, and what better way to, get that sour taste out of your mouth from getting to play Thursday night. At the end of the day, it always comes down to us. We take care of what we need to take care of, and we're detailed out. We should be in a good spot.
This has to be the week. This has to be the week. And I know that, it's like, okay, hey, we're only here week 6. But the way this thing's transitioned, it's the Giants coming up. If there's a big struggle here, we've got, like I said, some serious issues. But I think that it will be, especially getting the running game going. And that's even with Landon Dickerson being out. Don't worry, I'll get to the injury report here in a second. Now, I'll admit, New York has an insane list of pass rushers who can get after the quarterback. However, they continue to be one of the worst teams in the league against the run. Seriously, in 2024, the Giants gave up 4.6 yards per carry, allowed the second most runs of 20-plus yards, and tied for the most runs of 40-plus yards. And realistically, it's not been much better this season because through 5 games, they're allowing 140 rushing yards per game and 5.3 yards per carry. Plus, maybe a small thing for some, but given the fact that Saquon's documentary literally drops today on the same day as this game, there's not a better time to make a statement back at MetLife.
Something that I did a lot last year. We say execution fuels emotion. I executed a lot and made some big plays and, helped get things rolling. So I got to get back to making some big plays.
Yep, that's more than enough for me. I'm taking Saquon as the first touchdown scorer and also a couple other big plays that you can tell with Underdog. Because right now, as one of the official season-long sponsors, you can get $100 in bonus funds when you play $5 and get additional gimme picks. All you got to do is scan the QR code right there on your top right or use the link in the description and use code PHILLYSPECIAL. Also, we're currently in the middle of Boosttober, meaning Underdog is giving out boosted payouts every single day during the month of October. And this week in particular, I'm taking advantage of Underdog's new option to stack the same plays with the same players for a little boost. That's right, 3 Saquon picks all on the same play. So check it. I'm rolling with Saquon to have higher than 85 rushing yards, also to have 1 carry over 20 yards, and for Saquon to find pay dirt at least once. Of course, yes, you do have to take 1 player from the other squad, so give me Jackson Dart higher than 30 passing attempts. After all, if Philly's going to make things right and get up big, then Dart will have to throw. Heck, he had 40 passing attempts versus the Saints last week. Anyway, feel free to let me know what you think of those picks in the comments, and good luck to those of you who are telling. Remember, get signed up with the best option in fantasy sports by scanning the QR code or clicking the link in the description and using code PHILLYSPECIAL. By the way, it won't hurt my feelings if some of you decide to fade the play based on what we've seen so far this season, especially since New York held the Saints to just 88 yards on 30 carries last week, and they'll almost assuredly be focused to shut down the running game this week.
We got to make sure we do a good job, obviously, with the run game, continue what we did last night for the most part, or yesterday for the most part. I think it starts there. Obviously, with Saquon, he's going to be juiced up, ready to go Thursday night here. So it starts there.
Well, Saquon only had 6 carries last week. You kind of expect him to have a bigger workload. And what do you guys do to contain him?
Yeah, I was shocked when I heard that stat, so I'm sure they're going to come out and try to give him the ball.
The more I've watched the film and the more that I've analyzed this throughout the week, this game more than any other, and it's a Thursday game week, so, a shortened one, the players, they don't want to say it necessarily, the coaches neither, but it's like, this is kind of your DNA game. You go back to the basics, you be who you are, so whoever plays the aggressor here is going to come out on top. The Eagles shouldn't have any problem if they are who they are. Like, I get the thought of the Giants committing to stopping the run, except we heard that before the game last season, and what happened? That's right, Saquon ran for 176 yards on 17 carries and a touchdown, which is why I say, knowing the Eagles and the extra motivation they get from things, it would be very much like Nick Sirianni to tell the guys, we're going to establish the running game and remind the Giants about the costliest mistake they've ever made.
I have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia, I'll tell you that. As I've told you, just being honest.
At the same time, I know it's been nothing going for quite a while in that area, but I'm just saying this. If they can't get it going against New York, if we struggle here, then the fears and the anxiety levels are going to hit a new extreme high.
Panic, Adele. Pure panic.
Personally, I got this question quite a bit over the last couple of days. Confidence level, like, hey, Josh, where are you at? How much do you think that the running game finally breaks out? I know I said against the Broncos, they were a better defense. Against the Giants here, I'm like 8 of 10. In terms of confidence level, I do think they finally make it happen. Now, maybe that's too high, but come on, the Eagles are wearing their white jerseys with black pants on Thursday, aka the same combination they wore at MetLife last season for Saquon's return. And regardless of what they're wearing, I'm with Jimmy Kimsky, who said, let's face it, the Eagles have the better roster aside from maybe pass rush and should have a relatively easy win on Thursday. That is, unless Kevin Patullo has something to say about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
I don't know, maybe in a weird way, the shortened week helps the offense to not overthink things and just be who they are. Either way, the biggest area of concern is the Giants' pass rush. After all, Dexter Lawrence is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL. And seeing that Philly won't have Landon Dickerson, who's officially ruled out, there's no way Jeff Stoutland elects to have Brett Toth try to block him one-on-one. Which, doing the math, that means Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson will be on their typical islands to block against Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter. Now, they've not been at their best either this season, but I'm confident they can take care of things. Still, though, the best way to stymie the pass rush is to get the running game going. Otherwise, you're talking about a unit that has one of the quickest pressure rates in the entire NFL when they can pin their ears back. Yet while the Eagles' pass rush isn't nearly as dominant with the front four, it does look like they could be getting a good boost this week, after CBS Sports reported that Nakobe Dean will play his first snaps of the season tonight. Which, yeah, is unbelievable news and is going to be so awesome to see Nakobe back out there. However, let's not go crazy about it. Yes, it's hype to see him there, but remember, Fangio even talked about it, saying it's going to be very limited snaps. He has not really gotten fully acclimated. He's out there, he's getting in full practices, but totally different to actually, go out there and play the game. So if he does play or, he'll be maybe active, I would imagine it's very few snaps. Although I'll say this, look, even if used sparingly, Anthony DeBona brought up a good point that perhaps Fangio could use him in specific roles. Like, maybe blitzing, for instance. Because not sure if you realize this, but Nakobe had the 7th highest pass rushing grade among all off-ball linebackers last season. Of course, the major impact, and really the biggest one, would be in the run defense. But I still don't think, for one, he's ready for that, to play that amount of snaps. And then also, I just can't see a world where you take Jihaad Campbell off the field. Regardless, fortunately, this week with New York, they don't have a running back who's averaging 4 yards per carry. Plus, their offensive line is very gettable. So you add that in with the loss of Malik Neighbors a few weeks ago and the second best wide receiver for them and Darius Slayton officially being ruled out. And this is a Giants team that's lacking serious firepower. Granted, seeing the Eagles injury report with Jalen Carter pop up with a heel injury was pretty alarming. So I asked the Ant-Man how concerning that would be if the Breadman can't play, along with everything else we need to be considering ahead of the matchup.
This might be one of the only games where they could potentially get away without having Jalen Carter on the field because of how poor the Giants' interior offensive line is, and I'm sure we'll get into that later. But it would be nice to see Jalen Carter play. I mean, he hasn't been off to the start that we all expected him to be. I mean, this is a guy that we thought was going to be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversations, and that obviously hasn't happened. But hopefully he's able to play. It seems like he should still go. I know it's a late practice report that you kind of get nervous with those, especially after what happened with A.J. Brown last season. But my guess is Jalen Carter will go, and this could be a get-right game for him as well.
It'd be really nice to see. Get a couple sacks. Jalen Carter, as you say, one of those. The Eagles, though, did officially, we can go ahead and officially confirm this, but they did lose two players, or will be without two players, and that's Grant Calcaterra and Landon Dickerson. You've made the case maybe for a little bit, but certainly to reiterate here, that might be a good thing for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's watched any of the recent videos this season especially, I've been very vocal about the struggles of Landon Dickerson with his injuries, and then obviously Grant Calcaterra wasn't injured before this, but he just wasn't too useful as a blocker. So I don't know if I would say that it's a big positive for the Eagles or that they'll gain much from this, but given how both players were performing this season, I don't think there could be much of a drop-off from them being out either, because, I mean, Landon Dickerson has allowed 13 total pressures this season and 3 sacks in just 5 games, and obviously he missed most of the Broncos game as well. And then Grant Calcaterra he actually got off to a good start against the Broncos. He had 2 receptions kind of early, but still he's basically useless as a blocker, and if they are going to use him as a receiver, I don't think there's much of a drop-off between him and Kylen Granson, who I think is also a better blocker than Grant Calcaterra. So we'll see how the Eagles manage it, but I don't think it's too much of a drop-off for either player.
Surprisingly, they actually did better than we've seen most of the season in 12 personnel, which would be with Grant Calcaterra. However, most of the season we've seen it's not been the case. It's the 11 personnel, which means Grant stay off the field. So I am curious. You sent me a graphic that people can see on the screen right now as well, and it just kind of talks about the differences of positions and how much pressure that each position has basically been accounted for in terms of Jalen Hurts there and the Eagles' pass protection. Landon Dickerson, not a great number. I mean, we've seen him. That there's something there that we pointed to, obviously some sort of injury. But at this point, I'm like, yes, with a lot of other people mentioning it in the comments as well. But it's like, just get Landon Dickerson healthy, right? Just take some extra time if you need to. Maybe it'll be okay. We do have the Giants, and again, we'll talk about their pass rush and the dominance on that side in a second. But it's like, look, for the longevity of the season, get Landon Dickerson right. No need to force it. Same thing for Grant Calcaterra. Maybe it helps Kevin Patullo's offense. We do need to see some changes. We do need to see some improvement. Early on, it was like, okay, let's not freak out here. But we're 5 weeks in, and personally, I'm feeling this way. I know I texted you about this, but where is the concern level at for Kevin Patullo? I know it's creeping up, but like, can we put some sort of number to it? Is there a way to just kind of vocalize where the concern level is at for Kevin Patullo in this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to be a little level-headed, maybe a little too level-headed in regards to Kevin Patullo and giving him too long of a leash, but I'd say the concern level before was probably maybe a 3 out of 10, but I'd say now it's probably in that 5 to 6 range, because like you said, we get further into the season, we're in October now, week 6, the Eagles are at the bottom of the league with, I mean, you're talking about in teams like the Titans and the Bengals without Joe Burrow. Like, this is not good company that you want to be in. And the Eagles just haven't figured it out. And they're not dealing with a ton of injuries outside of Landon Dickerson. I know Lane Johnson's been in and out of the lineup, but outside of that, they've been relatively healthy. So there's really no excuse for it. And things need to change quickly. I still don't think they would ever fire him midseason or make any drastic changes like that. But maybe they do bring in a consultant or something like that and later this month or November if another team lets somebody go, and we'll see what happens there. But I just feel like it's definitely getting the heat's getting a little bit hotter for Kevin Patullo in Philadelphia.
Yeah, definitely so. And you listen to the press conferences, and I've been right there with you. So people watching this, hearing this in the comments, feel free. Like, we will admit when we're wrong, right? And so maybe we end up being wrong, Kevin Patullo. Maybe it was, I don't like the knee-jerk reaction, so that's why I was also the same sense of like, okay, look, let's at least take till week 5 or week 6, which is what I said. And now we're here, and yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm probably at a 5 or 6 of 10. We're certainly creeping up in the concern level. Those can dissipate if the Eagles can, obviously go out there and do what they need to against the Giants. I do like the fact, at least, that we hear from the players, and they are still confident in saying, it's not a Jalen Hurts saying it's not a capability thing. It's like, we have the ability to do it. We just need to go and show it. They're rallying around whatever the reason for A.J. Brown, Jalen, Saquon meeting, all that. But like, they're saying the right things, so I'm still optimistic there. But there's so many other elements to it. It's like the slow operation, and it's not like we're talking about a slow operation where it's like, okay, they're barely the outlier. They are the extreme outlier. I mean, you look at these numbers here, and when I say slow operation, it's a lot of things, but it's certainly when you talk about the play clock being 5 seconds or less, it's almost every single time. And you get a play call coming in, Kevin Patullo, first-time play caller, probably a big element there. Was asked about it. Nick Sirianni was, the players were. I appreciate the fact they're not going to throw anybody under the bus, But, you just put two and two together and say, there's got to be something to that. And then the fact that the Eagles have been predictable, or they have been running plays into defensive looks that does not make any sense. It's like, well, if they're getting the play call in too late, maybe they don't have time to change it. And it's like, well, here we go. Like, best of luck. We're just going to see what happens, where maybe Jalen could make a check, but it's just taken so long. So I don't know. Do we see a little quicker operation? Are we hopeful for that?
I mean, it would be great to see that. I feel like the Eagles have always kind of flourished when they utilize no huddle, especially, or we've seen it this season with using the 11 personnel and the empty formation. So you definitely want to see more of that. And that's kind of why I'm not on that like 8-9 level or so as far as out of 10 for my worry of Kevin Patullo, is that we have seen the offense do well at times. There are times that they put together these decent drives where they're going 70, 80 yards, scoring a touchdown. They've done really well in the red zone. So there are those little glimmers of hope, but Kevin Patullo hasn't been able to put it all together. And the slow operation has kind of came back to bite them quite a bit, because you look at the penalty that nullified one of the big plays last week where they were late to do the motion, and it's all because you're getting to the line late. You're not able to do these motions and give yourself enough time to identify is the defense in man or zone, or can we change to this look? Can we run to this side instead or that? Because like you said, if they're getting to the line with 5 or 6 seconds to go, you have basically no time to process anything before you're snapping the ball. So hopefully everything speeds up, and part of the reason why I still have that hope is just remember last season, it felt like the Eagles offense kind of was a little sloppy to start the year, even under an experienced offense coordinator like Kellen Moore, but they eventually figured things out. The offense still wasn't great throughout the second half of the regular season, right? But once they hit the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, they were on fire. So, I mean, the Eagles have shown that they can kind of survive these spurts of shoddy offense, but Kevin Patullo needs to turn it around soon.
Very soon. Got to get faster. Speaking of that, really quickly, because I did a video about this earlier this week, and we didn't get a chance on the regular scheduled stream, so I got to ask you, but Mike McDaniel has been a topic. Shout out to Tony Pauline, others suggesting that the Dolphins' leadership is growing impatient with Mike McDaniel. Who knows how much longer he will stay there, especially with the record the Dolphins have, and it could get even worse. If he's out there and available, the hypothetical, because this is all it is for every single potential, but the hypothetical, do you bring him in for an offensive consultant? Would you be in favor of that, or no, not so much?
I mean, it's a tough kind of topic to talk about, right? Because right now it seems like there might be a little bit of the players against Kevin Patullo, or they're not necessarily liking what they're seeing. So now if you bring in a consultant, especially a guy that's coming off being a head coach and has had a ton of success as an OC, does that change things too much? Do we get into that 2023 territory where they made the change, but it wasn't officially a change, and people didn't know who to listen to, what was going on? So I think, but we also have seen the Eagles do it before, right? I mean, in 2022, they brought in Marcus Brady after he was fired by the Colts. He was their OC, but they fired him. They brought him in November, so pretty late in the season, and they ended up going to the Super Bowl that season, and he ended up getting a full-time job with the Eagles the following season. But I think Mike McDaniel, like a head coach, might be, I know he brings all the gadgety stuff that everybody likes, all the pre-snap motion. Even if you do bring him in, I don't think you're automatically going to see the Mike McDaniel offense in Philadelphia, right? You just can't make that drastic change mid-season. So I think that's more of a maybe next offseason, if Kevin Patullo gets fired or whatever happens, then maybe you can bring a guy like him in. But I think mid-season, you're usually looking more of an OC or a quarterback coach, something like that was let go by another team, and bring them in as more of a voice to help support the current OC and not kind of override them completely.
There we go. We've seen, obviously, for Vic Fangio, defensive consultant, and other instances. But yeah, I go back and forth. It's like it would be great to have just a little bit more motion, a little bit more speed, help to play those elements there. But at the same time, you're like, okay, how much is that going to affect? You're certainly not going to have a new offensive coordinator in the middle of the season. So that goes to the extreme. And I understand where they want to go with that, I guess, if you have the potential. But it's that's a little too far out there. But like we say, you can make things right. You can get right on the right track with a win, and not just a win, but maybe a little bit more of a statement win. The get right game against the Giants. Couple different matchups to keep an eye out for. Curious who you got. Maybe start with the offensive side.
Yeah, so I mean, the Eagles' offense. There's going to be a lot of areas where they can kind of take advantage of for the Giants' defense. I know that there is one area of concern though, and that's just how good the Giants' pass rush can be with those 3 edge rushers that they have, and Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter. I mean, the Eagles' leading guy with total pressures is Moro Ojomo this season with 16 total pressures. The Giants, all 3 of those players that I mentioned, have 18 or more total pressures each this season. So, I mean, the Giants, I know their defense hasn't put up the craziest numbers, but as far as rushing the passer and the unique ways that they can do so, because they'll put all three of those guys on the line at the same time and have Abdul Carter like an off-ball linebacker. Sometimes he's even like down in the stance as a defensive line, like an interior defensive lineman. They get a little weird, and they're going to test the Eagles' offensive line that has obviously struggled throughout the season. Now, Landon Dickerson isn't there. Maybe Brett Toth or Matt Pryor, whoever they start in that spot, can hold up a little bit better. But regardless, Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen haven't exactly been lights out. Jordan Mailata has given up a couple pressures here and there. Like, they're going to be put to the test. So the offensive line needs to step up. And then another area of pass protection that needs to be better is Saquon Barkley, who was stout throughout his career, it felt like, as a pass protector, and he's always good at picking up those blitzers, but he's already allowed 5 total pressures as a pass blocker this season. So it could be a big game for Saquon Barkley, not only as a runner, because the Giants defense is one of the worst in the league as far as defending the run. They're 7th worst. They allow 140 rushing yards per game. So this could be a big game for Saquon Barkley to kind of finally flip that narrative, and we see the Eagles' run game that we saw last season. But when they do drop back and they have him in the backfield as a pass protector, he needs to be able to pick up these guys that the Giants are going to bring on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm interested to see how that matchup kind of plays out.
Yeah, not as great. There's been so many other areas, right? And you mentioned Saquon Barkley. A lot of areas that just, we didn't have the struggles with for the Eagles. They were more dominant. I know we mentioned Landon Dickerson and the injury and, kind of the pressure rates and everything else. But there's just been a lot of guys. And it's not on one. Kevin Patullo, yes, the offensive coordinator, we need to be better, but it's not on just one element there of what's holding the team back or players that need to make plays and everything on that side. So, again, it comes down to a lot. Matchups certainly play another factor, but for the other side of the ball, any other areas to keep a focus on?
So this is another area that the Eagles have kind of struggled a little bit with as far as the defense side of the ball, and that's especially we saw with Patrick Mahomes, where he kind of ran wild. They were able to do it a little bit better in the second half of that game, where they were able to contain him, sending an additional, like another blitzer, and they were sending 5 guys, kind of being more contained with their rushes and more disciplined. Because Jackson Dart, I know he's a rookie, he's a little bit sporadic as far as passing goes, but he can run. He's had over 50 yards in each of his starts so far, and the Eagles need to honor his legs and utilize that disciplined pass rush again. So we could see Vic Fangio dial up a lot more blitzes to kind of send 5 guys at him, take advantage of the Giants' offensive line struggles, especially on the interior, and kind of keep him contained that way. And that's the other thing I would look for as well. We talk about the struggles of Landon Dickerson, but the Giants basically have 3 Landon Dickersons along their offensive line right now. I mean, John Runyon has allowed 13 total pressures, Greg Van Roten has allowed 11 total pressures, and John Michael Schmitz Jr., their center, has allowed 7 total pressures. So 31 total pressures combined just between their interior offensive line. Yeah, the Eagles should certainly take advantage of that, especially with the way that Vic Fangio has kind of been sending his interior off-ball linebackers as blitzers. This could be a game where they finally get home for a couple sacks.
Could we get like 3 sacks? I don't know what the line we would set it at, right? Like it feels like you could and should get more, but like 2.5. You taking the over for that? I mean, surely, right? If we could get one of those games where it's like we come away, hey, look at there, the Eagles 4 sacks, 5 sacks. I would take 3 even at this point, but. Man, what that would do for the psyche to say, hey, okay, because the pressure's been getting home. Fangio's said that he's confident in it. I don't know. Do we get one of those? Also, I guess we should mention this too, because I shared this earlier in the video, but curious to get your thoughts as well. I know everybody's hyped about it, but Nakobe Dean sounds like he'll be playing. Who knows how many snaps? He's been really good, or was certainly really good last year at blitzes and creating pressure. I don't know if it's like you insert him just a few plays and let him blitz Jackson Dart or answer on that side. But I don't know. Do you see him making any sort of noticeable impact in tonight's game?
Well, I actually, along with my game preview over on the PhillySpecialShow.com, I wrote an article about Nakobe Dean, his return, and his potential role for the Eagles, because obviously it's a little weird with Zack Baun and Jihaad Campbell playing as well as they are. But given how Vic Fangio is utilizing the off-ball linebackers at a higher rate as blitzers this year, I mean, on average, he only used them at 9.3 plays per game last season. That's up to 12.2 plays per game this season. And like you mentioned, Nakobe Dean was one of the best pass rushing off-ball linebackers in the NFL last season. And among players with 50 or more pass rushing snaps for the Eagles last season, he had the higher pressure rate with 21.2% as well. So it feels like if they are going to bring him along slowly, that could be the perfect role for Nakobe Dean. Like as far as starting week 6 and working his way up, is you throw him on the field for a couple snaps and obvious passing downs as that designated blitzing off-ball linebacker, and then you can drop Jihaad Campbell or Zack Baun coverage, or blitz them as well, like get crazy with, especially against a rookie quarterback. I feel like this is the perfect kind of landing spot. I know people are worried about that field and all the injuries that happened there, but as far as a matchup goes, Nakobe had a hell of a game as a blitzer against the Giants last season, and I could see him kind of repeating that success in his first game back this year.
Wouldn't mind it. Whatever it takes to get him out there on the field. Some unique looks as well, like you mentioned for Jackson Dart and the rookie quarterback out there. So we will see. Lastly here, again, as we do normally, but the score predictions, first touchdown score, feel free for those out there. Let us know your comment or comment down there. Let us know first touchdown score. This week I shared it. It did a little bit differently only because we're trying to put even more positive vibes out there. It's the first Eagles touchdown score, but realistically, I mean, come on. Like the Eagles should score first against the Giants. So for those out there in the contest, it's got to be the first Eagles touchdown and the Eagles win. But then you get a chance to win any Eagles jersey of your choice. So, technically, I mean, for you, Anthony, if you want to pick a Giants player, you can, but who would be your first touchdown score regardless?
I mean, I did have an Eagles player down here. So
okay, all right. So good. Okay,
I'm going along with your topic.
We don't even have
this might be
okay.
going to the well a bit too many times, but Dallas Goedert's on a little bit of a hot streak right now. He's scored the Eagles' first offensive touchdown in back-to-back games. So I could see the Eagles kind of marching their way down the field, maybe even getting an early turnover where they're in the red zone early. And then it seems like that's where Dallas Goedert has made his money this year. He's had a ton of touchdowns in the red zone, and I feel like that could be what gets him going in this one. And I mean, do you want me to jump into my score prediction, or you want to go into your first touchdown score?
Well, I mean, if you're ready for, I was going to say, I mean, quickly, I've kind of shared it already in this video, but people that, Saquon Barkley, I'm going to go Saquon. A big game for him. I think finally, please get over the 100-yard mark, rush for over 20 yards because we haven't seen that this year. Like, yes, but I'll take Saquon. But go ahead, your score prediction.
So, I mean, people aren't going to like this. It feels like this should be the get-right game where the Eagles just blow the doors off the Giants, right?
Don't do this.
They win 35-3 or something like that.
Don't do this.
I've been very high on the draft class that the Giants had. I'm not saying that the Eagles are going to lose this game, but I'm getting like eerily similar vibes to the Eagles-Panthers game from last season where it came down to like it was a one-possession game where they could have won, but something with that. So I have the Eagles winning.
It's going to be a drop?
Well, I don't think it's going to be the same ending, but I think it'll be closer than people expect.
Okay.
I think this Giants team is tough. The Jackson Dart and Camp Scatterbo are like physical players. They're going to like punch you in the mouth, and if the Eagles aren't ready for it, they can kind of catch them off guard and make things a little interesting, especially with all the edge rushers that they have as well against the Eagles' struggling offensive line. So I have the Eagles winning 24-17. Not the prettiest victory that people want, but I think it might be a little bit closer than you expect.
Man, I know it's only 7, and the spread.
I hope I'm wrong.
We all do. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments. Feel free, hey, let Anthony know how wrong he is. I mean, you may be right though, because we've had some issues. We've had some struggles. So it's a division game. We have had the Giants number, but crazier things have happened. The spread is 7.5, I believe, at the time of this recording. So who knows where it'll change or when people are listening to it. But I believe it was 7.5. That's pretty close. It's not like that's to the extreme. I just think the get-right game, you need it for so many different reasons. And not that you have to find any extra motivation, but to me it's like the players know it, the coaches know it, everyone else there. So I'm going to say Eagles 28-17. I think they get it. It's not the 28-3 like last year, unfortunately. That would be phenomenal. I mean,
that's only 4 more points than my score. That's not that crazy.
Well, but you're saying it's going to come down to close. I'm thinking like, what? Do the Giants have the ball? Are they driving and get stuck? I'm thinking it's 28-17, like a pretty comfortable. Like they may score at the end, or I don't think it's a like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose this game here, or are they even going to tie it to force overtime? I think it's a 28-17. We win. It's comfortable enough, but I'm sure people will have some things to gripe about. But I'll take it's clearly covering the spread as well. So you're going with a 1-score game. We can't get another 1-score game. We need one of these that's just like, okay, there you go. We took care of business. Again, it'd be great 28-3, but we'll see. As always, feel free to let us know your thoughts in the comments. Agree to disagree if you don't think otherwise. Whatever you want. ThePhillySpecialShow.com. Check out Anthony's content there, or on Twitter at DeBona NFL. Always the best follow. And we'll be streaming during the game. Thomas and I will, so come hang out. All the other giveaways, everything else. But until next time, we'll see you guys. Go Birds.